If you don't mind just a little bit of shedding, these new MADBALLS are pretty fun. Seems like every toy collector is looking for vintage MADBALLS nowadays. And while there isn't a handbook on how to track them down, that isn't stopping the flocks of collectors trying to find them. So while trying to keep the tradition of classic MADBALLS alive but also giving it a new twist, the company has come out with a brand new toy line in 2025. Say hello to the newest iteration of MADBALLS. There are 6 different toys to collect in this first wave, each one coming in a clear plastic display bubble, but the biggest new feature of them all is that each one is going to have its own section of troll-like hair, either as a beard, mohawk, or crazy eyebrows. If you've seen my collection before, you know I don't really specialize in these things. The closest thing I have is this TMNT football, but I am nostalgic for them because we definitely had a touchdown terror as a kid, and I'm pretty sure we had one of the original Hornheads as well. So for only about $5 each, I thought I'd pick a few up. Even if these don't start a new obsession for me, they can always go on the troll shelf. So without further ado, because it's the one with the most nostalgia for me, let's take a look at Hornhead first. If you don't mind a little bit of glare, I'd say these plastic domes are a pretty good option for display. Just trim a little bit of tape on the bottom lid and you should be able to unscrew the bottom pretty easily. And it seems like the plastic insert is a little bit different for each one, but because this one's a beard, it kind of extends from the bottom, kind of displaying it up in the air. So you can't really use that plastic piece on its own, but you could always display it back in the bubble. So here is Hornhead outside of the package. The first thing I'm most curious about is just how squeezable these things are. I don't have a great memory of the originals, but I remember them feeling kind of like a Nerf ball. I would say these new designs have a similar feel, but of course with that added tuft to hair all the way around it. I really like the design they put on the face there, especially in the artwork on the package, but there's something about how it's printed on the ball itself that doesn't quite look defined enough. I'm kinda curious if maybe it had a thin cartoon black outline, it might look better. Maybe it's something I can try in the future. There are some raised areas in the sculpt that the design is supposed to line up with, and on this one I think they're pretty close. Just could've used a little bit more definition. Up next, we have a character I definitely remember, but I don't know if I ever owned one, and it's the Screamin' Mimi. Right off the bat, you can see this one was losing a little bit of its hair, and it did look a little bit junky inside the package, so I don't have high hopes for the wig on this one. It does feature a more usable plastic insert, so you could use this on a shelf alone if you want, but you can kinda see what I mean with that wig up on top. Maybe with a little bit of styling I can get it to look a little bit better, but we'll just have to see. After messing around with it a little bit, it does look a little bit better, but of course I am losing more and more hair each time. So this character was one of the first sports-themed balls. It's supposed to be a baseball, but unlike a normal baseball, this is still squishy. You can see the stitching around the back. I'm not sure why it didn't continue to the front. I'm pretty sure it did at least a little bit on the original, but I'm not really sure. The sculpt on this one seems to be a little bit more detailed than the Hornhead, but unfortunately it doesn't really line up with the graphic. You can hopefully see some of the spots that are sculpted intended to be part of the nose are kind of almost extended into the eyeballs a little bit, and it's a lot more evident as you move down to the mouth. The teeth and gum line just really don't line up to where they're supposed to be based on the sculpt, so it's kind of difficult to give it a fair shake. I think the sculpt itself and the design separately are both really cool, they just don't quite line up like they should. Again, I think this one might benefit from a few cartoon lines outlining some of the details, but unfortunately this was the last one available of this character in the display I found, so I can't really tell you if they're all going to be like this or if mine's kind of a one-off. And the last character I picked up I didn't know anything about, I just liked the colors. This one is Wolf Breath. This one has an orange cap instead of green, so that's a little bit different, but what really drew me to this one was that bright purple hair on top. Those giant yellow teeth are looking gnarly on the front, but right off the bat, this sculpt doesn't seem to have as many raised details as the other two, and it had that giant number printed on the ear, so that's a little funny. The squishiness feels the same as the other ones as well, but again, I'm not 100% sure what this character is supposed to look like, so I can't really comment on the accuracy. It being a little less defined in the sculpt makes it hard to tell where some of these elements are supposed to be, but you can see in the teeth it looks like it's all kind of offset a little bit lower than it should be. I'm sure it looked really awesome in the render, it just didn't quite translate to the actual product. I do think the hair on this one is probably the highest quality, has a nice bold color, and it seems to be on the figure pretty securely, so that's a win. One big thing to keep in mind about these toys is that I do think they are marketed to be toys for kids. So when you look at them up close from a collector's eye, the details aren't quite there, but for something fun you can find in the toy aisle for just about $5 each, I think these are definitely unique. If you want to see a video that shows off all 6 of the first wave, you should definitely check out the recent video by Retro Slacker. Once I saw his post, I knew I just had to pick up at least a few for the collection. And while each of them do have a few little faults, I do have to keep in mind how cheap they were. And honestly, overall, I'm really happy with the Hornhead. It's definitely my favorite of the 3 that I bought. And it has for sure earned a spot on that troll shelf until later on when I probably have a Madball shelf. Be sure to let me know what you think of this newest version of the Madballs down in the comments. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you next time.